Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the weeds on something crucial for anyone writing Ruby.
Yeah, we're talking code quality, style, readability, maintainability, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And we've got some great material to guide us. There's a piece from Onagi Software, something from Deep Source on CI pipelines.
And of course, the big one, the Ruby style guide itself, the community standard on GitHub.
Right. So our mission today is basically to pull out the practical, actionable advice from these. The stuff that helps you write better Ruby without needing a PhD in linters.
Precisely. Those little tips and maybe some of the thinking behind them that can make a real difference day to day.
Okay, let's kick things off with rubocop. If you're maybe newer to Ruby or haven't used it much, what is rubocop fundamentally? Why should you pay attention?
So rubocop, it's a static code analyzer. Think of it like a very opinionated proofreader for your code.
Okay.
But it's not just any opinions. It's built directly on that Ruby style guide we mentioned.
Yeah.
So it automates checking if your code follows community best practices.
Right, so it enforces consistency.
Exactly. And it flags things that aren't just style issues, but potential problems, like code smells or possible bugs. Saves you headaches down the line.
The Unagi article mentions something I think a lot of people experience. You run rubocop for the first time on a project, and bam, you get this huge list of offenses.
Oh, yeah. It can feel pretty overwhelming, like your code just failed an exam spectacularly.
No.
But, like the article says, that's kind of normal. The key is not to panic, but to understand why it's flagging things and learn how to maybe configure it, customize it for your team or project. It's a tool, not a rigid dictator.
Makes sense. So let's dig into some of those specific rules Unagi highlighted, the ones that give you the most sort of immediate benefit. First up, layout line length.
The classic 80-character debate.
Right. With modern screens, why 80? Some teams push it to 100, 120 even.
Yeah, and the guide acknowledges that team agreement part. But the core idea, backed by actual studies, is that shorter lines are just easier to read. We read vertically faster. Plus, and this is huge, it makes side-by-side code comparison way easier. Think code reviews or just having two files open. No horizontal scrolling nightmares.
That side-by-side point is actually really compelling. Okay, next. Style string literals. Single versus double quotes. Is there one true way?
The guide's main thing is consistency. Pick one style and stick to it.
Right.
But the general recommendation, use single quotes by default, only switch the double quotes if you actually need string interpolation, embedding variables like hashtag or special escape sequences like n.
So simpler is better unless you need the fancy stuff.
Pretty much. And it also mentions those .x character literals are basically pointless now since Ruby 1.9. Just use a single character string.
Got it. What about layout trailing white space? Seems minor.
It is minor, but it's like digital lint. It serves no purpose, clutters diffs sometimes, just clean it up. Rubocop makes it easy to spot.
Fair enough. Okay, style trailing command literal. This feels like a style preference war waiting to happen.
It kind of is. Again, consistency is key. The guide leans towards not having trailing commas in array or hash literals, especially on a single line.
But some people like them for multi-line arrays, right? Makes adding things easier.
Yeah, it can make diffs cleaner if you add an element. But the default recommendation is no trailing comma unless your team specifically decides to require it everywhere.
Okay, consistency rules. Next, lay ash alignment. This sounds useful for readability.
Oh, totally. This is about lining up the keys and values in your hashes, whether you use the colon syntax or the older hash rockets.
Like in a table.
Exactly. Using the table enforcement style makes it super easy to scan down the keys and see what maps to what, especially in bigger hashes. Huge readability win.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, lint rescue without error class. This sounds important.
Very important. This is a safety thing. Just writing rescue on its own catches everything, including potentially serious system errors you probably didn't intend to catch.
Right, like syntax error or something you really shouldn't ignore.
Exactly. It can hide bugs.
Yep.
The rule pushes you to be specific. At the very least, rescue standard error, which covers most common application-level errors, but avoids catching the really low-level stuff.
Good practice. Be explicit. Now, naming. Naming method name enforces snake case. Why is that the Ruby way?
It's just the convention.
Yeah.
Snake case for methods and variables is deeply ingrained. It makes code predictable. You see some method name, you instantly know what it is. If people use different styles, it would just be jarring.
A common language for code.
Yeah?
And lint useless assignment.
Pretty straightforward. It finds variables you assign a value to, but then never use.
So dead code, basically.
Yeah. Or maybe you assign you forgot to finish something. Good for decluttering.
Makes sense. Then there's style symbol array, preferring percent. That's a nice little Ruby feature, isn't it?
It is. It's much cleaner for arrays of symbols. Instead of .1, .2, 3, you just write %need33. Less noise.
More concise.
Yeah. The guide suggests using it when you have 2 or more symbols in the array.
Cool. And the last one from Unagi's list. Naming rescued exceptions variable name. Naming the variable that holds the caught error.
Right. So when you do rescue specific error, it is E. What
Right.
should you call E?
Mhm.
Usually E or X is fine for simple cases. But the guide encourages using a more descriptive name if the error handling logic is complex. Makes it clear what error details actually contains.
Right, context matters. Okay, so those are great practical rubocop rules, but let's zoom out a bit to the Ruby style guide itself. It starts with that powerful quote, something about writing programs for people.
Yeah, from Harold Abelson. Programs must be written for people to read and only incidentally for machines to execute. That really sums up the whole philosophy.
It's a great guiding principle.
Absolutely. Code gets read way, way more often than it's written. So optimizing for readability, for maintainability, for teamwork, that's the core goal.
And the guide isn't just pulled out of thin air, right? It mentions its sources.
No, definitely not. It explicitly states it's based on real-world use, community feedback, insights from popular editors, and respected books like the Pickaxe book, Programming Ruby, or the Ruby programming language. It's grounded in collective experience.
And it evolves with Ruby itself.
Yeah, it's a living document. As Ruby changes, the recommended practices adapt.
There's a fantastic section called A Note About Consistency that adds some nuance. It says consistency with the guide is good, project consistency is better, class method consistency is best. But then it says know when to be inconsistent.
Yes, that's
Okay.
crucial. It's not about blind adherence. Sometimes forcing a rule might make code less clear in a specific context or maybe break compatibility with older code you can't easily change.
So use your judgment.
Exactly. Understand the why behind the rule. If deviating genuinely improves things like readability or avoids unnecessary churn in stable legacy code, that can be okay. Just be deliberate about it. Don't break things just to make Rubocop happy.
That feels very pragmatic. It's about thinking, not just ticking boxes. Okay, the guide is massive. We can't cover everything, but maybe we can hit some key style highlights, give people a taste.
Sure, let's bounce around a bit. Fundamentals. Indentation is 2 spaces. Soft tabs only. No hard tabs, ever.
Got it. 2 spaces.
Line length, we covered that aim for 80, maybe up to 120 if the team agrees. No trailing white space. Generally, 1 expression per line. Keep it clean.
What about spacing? Like around plus signs or inside brackets?
The guide's pretty specific there. Spaces around most operators, like plus knock after commas.
Sure.
No space inside parentheses or square brackets.
Mm.
Spaces around curly braces.
Okay.
But no extra padding inside string interpolation. Hashtag it user, not hashtag it user. No space after, no space inside ranges like 1.3. It creates a consistent visual rhythm.
That level of detail shows real commitment to consistency. What about empty lines?
Use them strategically. Between methods, definitely. To break up long methods into logical chunks. Around accessors like a reader. Around private or protected.
But not everywhere.
Right. Don't put them just inside a method body or class body for no reason. And avoid multiple blank lines in a row. Keep it tight, but separate it.
Naming conventions we touched on, snake case and capital case. Anything else key?
Yeah. Use English names. Files and directories should also be snake case. Constants are screaming snake case. And a nice tip. Prefix unused variables or block parameters with an underscore tephus intent.
That underscore trick is handy. Control flow. Any interesting bits there?
Prefer the ternary operator condition. Strogival, falsible for simple single-line ifs, but don't nest them, becomes unreadable fast.
Right.
Use case over long, else-if chains if you're checking the same variable. Use, not the word not. Use and for Boolean logic, not and/or because their precedence is different and can bite you.
Right, the and/or precedence trap.
Yeah. And prefer unless for simple negative conditions, but don't use else with unless. That gets confusing.
Lots of subtle refinements there. Methods, classes, modules, huge topics. Any quick highlights?
Methods. Keep them short. Under 10 lines is a good target, maybe even under 5. Avoid top-level methods and gems. Put them in classes or modules.
What about defining them?
Prefer defself.methodName for class methods. And always skip the parentheses when calling a method with no arguments, like user.name, not user.name.
So it's very Ruby-like. And classes module structure.
There's a suggested order. Include prepend first, then constants, macros, class methods, initialize public instance methods, then protected private. makes navigation easier.
A standard layout.
Yeah. And use explicit nesting for namespaces. Module app, class service, and rather than class app service. Prefer modules if you just need a collection of class methods. Use private protected effectively.
Okay, we're flying through this. Comments, collections, numbers, strings, rejects. The guide covers it all.
It really does. Comments should explain the why, not the what. Code should be self-documenting ideally. Use standard annotations like to-do, six, prefer literals, and fail. Use percent made your money for arrays of simple strings, percented for symbols, prefer symbols as hash keys. Use the modern key, value syntax. Use fetch for keys you expect to exist.
Iterators.
Prefer the main methods like map, select, reduce, not their aliases.
Numbers, strings, rejects, anything jump out.
Underscores in big numbers, hundreds, zero. Single quotes for strings unless you need interpolation. Use heterodox, SQL, for multi-line strings, especially with indentation. For regex, use A and Z for start to end of string, not and dollar. Use the X modifier in comments for complex ones.
Wow, okay. And it even gets into metaprogramming, API docs, gem files.
Yeah, advises caution with metaprogramming, especially method missing. Use Yarda for docs, keep gem specs clean. It's incredibly thorough.
It sounds like an essential resource. And briefly, DeepSource mentioned fitting this into CI pipelines. How does that work?
Right. Tools like DeepSource basically let you run rubocop and other analyzers automatically every time code is pushed.
So continuous checking.
Exactly. It becomes part of your workflow. It enforces the style guide, catches potential issues early right there in your development process, keeps the whole team on the same page automatically. It's like a safety net.
That makes a lot of sense for team consistency. Okay, so wrapping this up, we've seen how crucial readable, consistent code is in Ruby.
Yeah, and how tools like Rubocop, guided by the community style guide, help us achieve that. It's about practical rules, but also the underlying philosophy.
Code for humans, right?
Code for humans.
Yeah.
And your future self.
So here's a little challenge, maybe.
Yeah.
Pick just one thing. One Rubocop rule or one style tip from the guide we talked about. Try applying it consciously in your next bit of Ruby code.
Yeah, just see how it feels. Does it make the code clearer? Does it prevent a small annoyance? Even small steps add up.
And remember, the style guide is huge. We barely scratched the surface. If something piqued your interest naming, control flow, whatever, go dive deeper into that section online. Check out the Rubocop docs, too. See how you can tweak it.
It's worth the time investment if you're serious about Ruby.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with as software gets more and more complex is thinking about code style, just, aesthetics. Or is it actually fundamental to building systems that work, that last, and that people can actually understand and maintain over time?
Something to chew on.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.